why isn't Michigan number one? How can you still argue and still justify, if you're the college football playoff committee, coming off a weekend in which we just watched Michigan beat number 2 Ohio State and Georgia win and pull away late but struggle against Georgia Tech? Why is Michigan not number one? These rankings are supposed to be week by week. Right? They put them out week by week, not month by month or just one time at the end of the year. So if you're going to do a weekly rankings show, which the committee does, then you have to then adjust the rankings based on what you see from that previous week. We just saw Michigan pull off the best win in college football. No team right now has a better win than the Wolverines in beating Ohio State, who was, at the time, number 2 in the country. And that is not enough for you to go from number 3 to number 1, where the number 2 team you just beat and the number 1 team in Georgia was playing a close game against Georgia Tech for the entirety of the game. What do we, again, I feel like I say this a lot, and this is infuriating. The games matter. What we watch on Saturdays have to matter. Not the recruiting rankings, not past history, not like, oh, well, they're a big brand, so let's put them here. What we watch on Saturdays have to be the biggest barometer of change each and every week. And the committee refuses to allow what we see each and every Saturday to influence their decision making. It's infuriating. Again, why are we playing these games if they're not going to impact the standings going forward? Is this a true rankings show? Or are we just sitting here just twiddling our thumbs, saying, oh, we got to put something out here. We didn't really watch the games. Let's just make the easy decision and say, well, number 1, they didn't lose, so we're going to keep Georgia there. And Michigan, nice one, we're going to put them at number 2. And Florida State, they're still undefeated, so we're going to put all the undefeated teams together here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Are we here to just check a box? Or are we here to make the tough decisions, the right decisions? The right decision going into conference championship weekend is putting Michigan at number 1. They have the best resume. When you not only add the Ohio State win, but also the win over Penn State, which right now is number 10 in the latest committee rankings, Michigan has 2 top 10 victories on their resume. No other team at this present moment has that. So 2 top 10 victories and 1 coming just on Saturday in the biggest game of the season. How that is not enough to move the Wolverines from 3 to 1 is laughable. It's pathetic and it's undefendable. The committee totally dropped the ball. And I don't care, by the way, that Georgia, if they smoke Alabama, could then jump back to number 1. Fine. If that happens, put Georgia at number 1 and we'll move forward here. But these rankings, because they come out weekly, you have to then prioritize what you see the previous Saturday. And what we saw this past Saturday was Michigan beat the number 2 team in the country. They have the best win right now of any team in college football, and they should be rewarded by going from 3 to 1. There is no explanation you could possibly say that justifies Georgia right now this week over Michigan. That's number 1. Number 2, the fact that Florida State here is number 4 is a joke. It's an absolute joke, and honestly, it's an embarrassment to the sport. It is a flat-out embarrassment to college football, the coaches that coach, and the players that play. Because you are not rewarding taking care of business, quote unquote. You are making an easy decision. And you are punishing, at the moment right now, more deserving players, more deserving coaches who, unlike Florida State, have challenged themselves and have come out of that other side of the challenge in a better spot. Florida State has played down to their competition for over half their games. You can't play down to your level of competition and also, by the way, not have a big-time win. They don't have any impressive win whatsoever. And these latest rankings, by the way, LSU is 13, Louisville 14, so they're going to play Louisville this week. That's not even going to be, if they win, their best win of the season. You can't have the best win of your season be a 3-loss LSU team. Then also, by the way, on top of that, play close games against Boston College, Clemson, Miami, Pitt, trail 13-0 to North Alabama, play closer than you should against Florida, who also had their own backup quarterback, lose in the fourth quarter at home to Duke. You can't have 7 games play down to your level of competition and truly sit here and say you're one of the 4 best teams in the country. The committee was made or created to make the tough decisions. The tough but right decision is right now putting Florida State 8th. There is no way right now you could say they have a better resume or a better win than anything Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, anything they've done this year. So to continue to reward the Seminoles for mediocrity, it's a slap in the face to everyone else in college football. It's a joke. Make the tough decisions. That's why you are there. The committee was made for subjectivity. In this specific year, where we are going into the final weekend of college football before the playoff starts, with 8 teams still alive for 4 spots, that itself is unprecedented. We have never had, since the playoffs started and expanded in 2014, we have never had this many teams alive this late in the season. So that means now it's not just as simple as, oh, you win and you're in. You need differentiating factors here to separate who should get in. If we are sitting here talking about a 12-1 Texas team, a 12-1 Alabama team, a 12-1 Georgia team, a 12-1 Oregon team, a 12-1 Washington team, a 12-1, I don't think I said it, but if I didn't, Georgia team. There's an absolute realistic chance here. We have 12-1 Georgia, 12-1 Washington, 12-1 Oregon, 11-1 Ohio State, 12-1 Texas, 12-1 Alabama. That is an absolutely realistic possibility that we are sitting here on Sunday, along with, by the way, an undefeated Florida State. You can't just say, well, if you're undefeated, you're in. You need subjectivity. You need to dive into who teams play and how they look when they play them. Style points in college football is important. This is not the NFL, where there is no such thing as style points. It's literally the only way you get in the playoffs is by how many wins you have and what tiebreakers you own. That is it. There's no committee. There's no subjectivity. It doesn't matter if you beat the worst team in the NFL by 3 points, 1 point, 30 points. A win counts the same. In college football, that is not the case. So it's not good enough this year to just say if Florida State is undefeated, they should be in. You need to look at who they've played, no one challenging, how they have looked, again, I would argue mediocre for over half their season, and realize they could be 13-0. But you know what? There's a team in Washington who has 3 top 20 victories on the season. If they lose on Friday night to Oregon, I would easily argue Washington's resume, even with a loss, is better right now than Florida State's. If Georgia loses, or Alabama wins, or Texas wins, all 3 of those teams are 12-1. All 3 of those teams have a better resume and a better argument to make the 4-team college football playoff than Florida State. This is not the year where you can just say if you're undefeated, you're automatically in. Subjectivity is needed. How you play and who you play is absolutely imperative to determining the 4 best teams. That's what we're looking for here. The 4 best teams right now in college football. And with how Florida State has played, the fact that right now their best win came all the way back in week number 1, they play in the weakest conference of the Power 5 in the ACC. You can't sell me that they are a top team. And if you want to play the 13-0 argument, let's put Liberty in. Liberty's undefeated. If we're just going to say it doesn't matter who you play, if you're 13-0, you should be in the college football playoff, then let's put Liberty in, damn it. Reward being undefeated. But if we're going to say, well, no, well, they're not in the Power 5, Ryan. Well, guess what? With Florida State's resume, they're not really a Power 5 resume either. They played a lot of bad teams, and they have played down to a lot of bad teams. They should get punished for that, not rewarded. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Now, I will say, I think the committee got it right in the sense that Ohio State being ranked ahead of Texas and Alabama is absolutely true. Again, they have wins right now. Ohio State does over number 10 Penn State and number 17 Notre Dame. Better than the resume Texas has, better than the resume right now currently Alabama has. The Buckeyes are still alive for the college football playoff. They absolutely are. Georgia wins. Michigan wins. Washington wins. Texas loses. Florida State loses. Ohio State is your fourth team. That's not a crazy scenario. Georgia beats Bama. They're going to be favored. Michigan beats Iowa. Iowa may not score 7 points. Now, Washington is undefeated, but they've is an underdog against Oregon, excuse me. They've already beaten the Ducks, though, one time this season. Texas and Oklahoma State's been a spunky bunch this year. And if Florida State, again, they are barely getting by teams with a backup quarterback like Florida. They have not looked good this season. They are, frankly, due for a loss. If Louisville gets them and beats them, Georgia's in, Michigan's in, Washington's in, Florida State is out with a loss, Oregon is out with a loss, Texas is out with a loss, Alabama is out with a loss. Who else you putting in? Ohio State is your fourth team. So it was billed last week as an elimination game. This is a college football playoff game between Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State is not dead. They are not dead whatsoever, and the scenario to get them in, it's not crazy whatsoever. The Buckeyes are very much still alive.